Welcome to the Jamul Casino Resort Padres Postgame Show on the Padres Radio Network. Coming up, we'll deliver a full recap of today's game, including highlights from the biggest moments. Listen to Mike Shildt's postgame comments. Plus, we'll bring you today's play of the game. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
We are live inside our San Diego studios on this Friday evening as the Padres fall to the Arizona Diamondbacks in this series in road trip opener. The Diamondbacks 5 and the Padres 1. Welcome into our Jamul Casino Resort post-game show. Sam Levitt with you inside our Padres Radio Network studios. Players, kickstart your summer of fun with Jamul Casino Resort's Players Party Saturday, June 14th. Score $20 in free play, then enjoy live music, DJs, and best of all, free food. See JamulCasino.com for details and get ready to party, play, and win. Lot to do on our post-game coverage. We have a full game recap for you, all the radio highlights, and we'll go back to Chase Field in Arizona. Hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt as the Padres have a disappointing start to this series on the road. Arizona wins it 5-1. We'll get into what Stephen Kolek did and some of the issues there, some of the things that happened in the first few innings of this game, really the first 5 innings of this game. But I think the discussion here tonight begins with the Padres offense. You would really hope the Padres offense got something going during the 3-game series against the LA Dodgers earlier this week. It wasn't a perfect series. Padres only scored a grand total of 2 runs on 4 hits on Wednesday, although you felt like they were just a hit or 2 away from winning that game. Padres scoring 11 runs on 16 hits on Tuesday, and they had a back-and-forth game on Monday, 7 runs, and could have won that game. So you hope that the Padres offense sort of found it again, like they got it going again. But to be honest with you, here tonight in this series opener, this was nearly a carbon copy of a lot of the games we saw on that road trip to San Francisco and Milwaukee, where the Padres offense really was not doing a whole lot of anything. And this one, very, very similar to those, where you felt like this was very much a game that you could pluck out of that road trip, where the Padres just weren't scoring. They didn't have a ton going offensively, period. They did find ways to win games on that trip despite that. But you look at what they did here tonight, just 1 run on 6 hits. Early on, they had base traffic, couldn't find a way to score a run in the second. Little bit of weirdness with the interference on the home plate umpire. We'll talk about that. Had a nice opportunity in the third to score a run. But you look after the third here tonight in what was a close game, and at max it was a 5-1 game, a 4-run deficit. I mean, that's not impossible, especially against a Diamondbacks pitching staff that has not been very good as of late. Padres only had 2 base runners after the third. They had 1 single after the third inning. That was it. That was all the offense the Padres had in the final 6 innings of this game. So, again, 2 base runners after the third. They had just 1 runner get to second base, and D-backs pitching, their relievers retired the final 11 Padre hitters of this game. And look, it wasn't like the Padres were facing an excellent bullpen here tonight. This bullpen, we talked about it pregame, had really, really struggled. A 5.12 ERA as a bullpen coming into tonight's game. That was good for 27th out of 30 major league bullpens. They faced a rookie in Kyle Backus, and then guys in the Arizona bullpen. Murillo has nearly a 5 ERA. Thompson has over a 5 ERA. Shelby Miller, who pitched in the 9th inning, has been very good. But again, this is not a great pitching staff. It's a very banged up pitching staff. Talk about injuries, and we'll get to some of the updates on Yu Darvish and Michael King a little bit later. But the Diamondbacks have dealt with a ton of big-time pitching injuries. Corbin Burns done for the year recently. Jordan Montgomery done for the year. Tommy John, Justin Martinez, one of the real promising arms in their bullpen, he's done for the year due to Tommy John. And even beyond that, beyond the bullpen issues here today, or the issues the Padres had against the Arizona bullpen, you know, look, Ryan Nelson is a guy they've seen a lot of, and the Padres have had a lot of success against Ryan Nelson over the course of the last few years. They've seen him a ton, and aside from giving up an unearned run in the first 2 batters of the game, which really wasn't on him, Ryan Nelson went 5 innings, no earned runs given up, only gave up 6 hits. And again, the Padres, after the third, the offense just shut down. 2 base runners, a single and a walk, and that was it. So to me, that is where the story begins here tonight. The offense, this was just a frustrating game offensively, and I would say, to be honest with you, slightly concerning that it just looked like it did over the course of the last road trip and even a little bit before that, where you just have these games where there's just not much going on at all. Now, the top of the lineup in some respects was productive. I thought Fernando Tatis Jr. actually had a really nice game, and hopefully that's a positive to take away from this one. Maybe this was a step forward for a struggling Fernando Tatis Jr., but the bottom 4 spots in the lineup tonight, they had no hits, no walks. Cronenworth reached on an error. That was it. So the bottom 4 hitters not particularly productive here tonight. And we just saw a lot of games like this over the course of that last road trip where there just wasn't much going on offensively. No stringing together of hits, no home runs. And again, this felt a lot like that, which, I don't want to make too big a deal out of it. Hopefully they bounce back tomorrow and Sunday, but it just felt like they kind of picked up right where they left off from that previous trip. And you would hope that the Dodger series, even though it wasn't a perfect series, and even though some of the runs on Tuesday came against a reliever that was in there for 111 pitches and against Kike Hernandez, you'd hope that it would kind of get them going offensively. And that momentum did not carry over into tonight. And again, we'll talk about Stephen Kolek. We have the full game recap, and we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt coming up as well. Final score here today, Diamondbacks 5 and the Padres 1. Much, much more to do on our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show. We're back in a moment on the Padres Radio Network. Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Final score today, the Diamondbacks 5 and the Padres 1 as the D-backs take the opener of this 3-game series and the opener of this 7-game road trip to Arizona and L.A. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we continue to wrap this one up. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt coming up in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. First, let's recap this one from start to finish.
Which moments determine the outcome of today's game? We'll paint you a picture with our game highlights on the Padres Radio Network.
Right-hander Ryan Nelson took the mound for Arizona in the top of the first inning. Fernando Tatis Jr. hit a leadoff double. Luis Arraez was next.
Here's the 0-1. Arraez swings again. Lines it into center. Thomas comes in. Now he's got to go back. Fernando going to tag right in his face. Second to third. The throw. Not in time. Now it kicks away into foul territory. Fernando's on his way. He's going to score. Ugly from the D-backs. The pitcher Nelson was backing up third in foul territory, and he just didn't display a lot of urgency to go get the baseball. Fernando had the play in front of him, and he just kept on coming. It's 1-0.
So the Padres got a gift, not a great throw, not a great play by Suarez at third base. It was an unearned run against Ryan Nelson, but the Padres would take it. They had a 1-0 lead after the first inning. In the bottom of the second, Stephen Kolek took the mound after a scoreless opening frame. It was Josh Naylor who led off.
From the Guardians by the Diamondbacks in a late December trade. He swings at the first pitch and hammers it to right. Fernando at the wall, leaps up, can't get it. It's a home run. First pitch, second inning for Josh Naylor, and he takes Stephen Kolek out. That'll tie the game 1-1.
A home run for Naylor. We were still tied at 1 in the third. Kolek got the first 2 outs. He then struck out Corbin Carroll on what would have ended the inning, but a pass ball by Elias Diaz allowed Carroll to reach. That was costly because Kolek then walked Ketel Marte, and then Geraldo Perdomo bounced the single through the infield. Carroll scored, and the D-backs had a 2-1 lead. It was still 2-1. Going bottom 5, it was Corbin Carroll who led off.
1-0. And Carroll hits it in the air the other way, deep to left field. Wade is back. He is on the warning track. He is at the wall. He jumps, and it's going to go. Home run, Corbin Carroll. Just over the fence into the first row. Tyler Wade went back, made a great effort, couldn't make the catch. 20th of the season for Corbin Carroll. And the Arizona lead is now 3-1.
The trouble continued for Kolek. A single, a double, a sac fly for Josh Naylor made it 4-1. An RBI single from Lourdes Gurriel Jr. made it a 5-1 game. All in all, 3 runs in the bottom half of the 5th inning for Arizona. They jumped out to a 5-1 lead through 5. Kolek was done after 4 innings and a third. He gave up 5 runs, 4 earned. Ryan Nelson was done after 5 innings. He allowed just the 1 unearned run. Padres bullpen, to their credit tonight, they kept it in range, but the D-backs bullpen also threw up zeros. Kyle Backus got 4 outs. Juan Murillo got 2. Sean Reynolds pitched an inning and 2/3 scoreless. Wandy Peralta pitched the scoreless 7th inning. D-backs still led 5-1. Going to the 8th inning, Ryan Thompson pitched the scoreless top half. David Morgan did the same for the Padres in the bottom half to give the Padres a puncher's chance in the top of the 9th inning, but it was Shelby Miller who retired the side in order to end this ball game. The final score, the D-backs 5 and the Padres 1. Final totals here tonight for Arizona: 5 runs, 7 hits, 1 error. For San Diego, 1 run, 6 hits, and no errors. The winning pitcher here tonight was Ryan Nelson, who improves to 3-2. Stephen Kolek took the loss. He's 3-2. The Padres dropped to 38-30. Diamondbacks improved to a game over 500 at 35-34. So that's our game recap tonight. When we come back, we'll go back to Chase Field in Arizona. Hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Plus, a little bit later, we'll take your phone calls at 833-288-0973. Again, 833-288-0973. The phone number to call. Still a lot to do on our post-game coverage. We hear from the Padre manager when we return. Our post-game coverage continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we continue to wrap this one up. Final score, the Diamondbacks 5 and the Padres 1 as the D-backs win this series opener. Padres drop to 38-30. Diamondbacks improve to 35-34. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt in just a moment. Obviously, a tough day for Stephen Kolek. Only got through 4 innings and a third, 5 runs, 4 earned, given up. It was an interesting outing. Perfect first inning, gave up the home run to Naylor in the second. Solo shot, really no big deal when you're giving up solo shots. And then unlucky in the third because he got the first 2 outs and then he struck out Corbin Carroll, but a pass ball by his battery mate Elias Diaz allowed Carroll to reach. Then he walked Marte, Perdomo singled, and just like that, D-backs took a 2-1 lead. And then really the inning that was on Kolek was that 5th inning, gives up the home run to Carroll, a single, a double, a sac fly, hits a guy, another RBI single, and the outing really getting away from Stephen Kolek in that 5th inning. As far as the Padres offense, again, the problem here tonight, they had only 2 base runners after the third. They had 1 single and a walk. That was it. Against not a great D-backs pitching staff, a guy in Ryan Nelson they've seen a ton of before. They've had a lot of success against before in a bullpen that came in with a 5+ ERA, one of the, quite frankly, worst bullpens by ERA in the majors this year, and some guys that aren't really going to scare you coming in out of that bullpen. But the Padres could not find a way to get their offense going really at any point tonight. Before we hear from Mike Shildt, I do want to point out, though, if you want to take away a positive from this game, I would say pretty confidently that would be Fernando Tatis Jr., and I'll tell you why. Fernando had a nice game. I mean, look, you've got it with Fernando right now amidst the struggles he's had since the start of May. Look for signs that he's starting to come out of it, and I thought tonight you saw some of that. Had a double at 98-mile-per-hour exit velocity in the first inning, was aggressive, tacking up second and third, basically created that run to open the game in the first inning. He walked. He had a single at 110 off the bat, and he also hit a ball to left field that got caught right at the wall. That would have been a home run at 11 out of 30 parks, according to StatCast, including Petco Park. So in some ballparks, not Arizona, but some ballparks, actually would have been a home run. So you put all that together, I actually think there were some good things to take away from this game from Fernando Tatis Jr. So if you're looking for a positive here tonight, you could talk about the bullpen too. We'll talk about what the Padres relievers did in this game a little bit later. But if you're looking for a positive tonight, I think you can look at Fernando Tatis Jr., hopefully a sign of things to come for Fernando. But again, Padres lose 5-1 in this series opener. Let's go back to Chase Field in Arizona and hear some post-game reaction.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
They hit right-handers really well. Pretty good offense over there. What did you see from Steven tonight?
Good early. Thought the ball really well. Didn't quite get the cutter into Naylor, but Toddy almost made a phenomenal play. The 2 quick outs and the ball that strike 3, that was, attack on run. Thought he was good in and out, changing speeds, off balance. And then, the 5th, just too many missed locations in the middle of the plate that, they made it pay for.
It would be great if a guy could get past the strikeout. But how much does that add on, do you think, to?
Well, today it did. I mean, look, he did it, and then Marte gets on, and the next thing, Grandma singles 2-1. So turns the lineup back over, a little more effort, energy. So they took advantage of it and added on, tacked on. I didn't have the count of the pitches, but, another 10 pitches. And plus there's probably a little bit of a quick mental letdown, that boom, boom, oh, I'm not out of it. But, that being said, I mean, that's part of the game. That's just part of it, and it's going to happen. And I don't think it was ultimately a factor moving forward into the 5th relative to his, ability to execute.
Your guys come in the bullpen, they get the job done.
Yep.
And you got Reynolds in and out, you got Wandy in and out, David in and out. How much like your usage with these guys where you haven't really pushed them so that now, assuming after the off day,
Yep.
these guys shouldn't be down?
That's right. That was part of the calculus for all that. It's a balancing act where we're at, coming off a day, starting 14. Reynolds is our freshest guy. Clearly made sense. Overall, bullpen did a nice job. Him to get an efficient inning in 2/3. And then it's like, okay, let's pass the ball around a little bit, keep it here. Wanted to do a good job in his lane, and David did his job to, make sure that closure came in the game. So that was important. And to know that, now Sean's at 21, I think, and can come back and, now we start to play the Matrix game.
I'm going to ask you a question you don't have an answer for, but the offense, what is it going to take there? And what?
Actually, I do have an answer. Baseball, you talked about the ball that, it gets away, that extends the bottom of the third. Well, let's talk about the top of the third. All right. Toddy does a great job. Had a great night. Toddy had a great night tonight. And so we need to appreciate that. Works the walk. Okay. Well, it's a one-hop missile. I don't know the exit velocity, but I've seen enough baseball to know it was hit hard. Just a one-hop missile that, Marte makes a nice in-between play on. Double play. Manny base hit. Jackson base hit. And Sheetsy, flies out 405. It's like, okay, so, the fair question, it's a 0. But, and Bogey, hit 2 balls right on the square. Gurriel, robs Louis. So I'm not alibiing that we only scored a run. We did manufacture a run, Toddy again in the first, with a nice heads-up play to tag. But, that's an inning that you look at it objectively and you go, what else do you want to have accomplished in that inning where you have, a guy not chasing out of the zone, the guy get in the zone, get a pitch he can square up, another guy squares it up, next guy squares it up, next guy squares it up, and you got a 0. That's the one of the things that at least I look at when you start talking about the offense of the quality of the bats that, that's why this game is such a challenge because you can have a lot of quality bats and still not have anything to show for it. So I thought the bat quality was actually good tonight.
You talked about Tatis and him having a good day. How good was that to see given some of the struggles he's had recently?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. And, listen, the bar's high for him and he knows that. And, so, we probably don't celebrate it when it's really, really good. We don't take it for granted. And when it's not quite as crisp, and then it's going to get some eyes. But I thought he played. I thought he has been. The San Francisco series was really good. Not a lot to show for it. I thought the last series was good. They pitched him tough. He took his walks. He got a couple of bags. Did a lot of things well tonight. Was able to, like when he's not necessarily he's got to go the other way, but it's good to see him, drive the ball the other way and the ball in the center that was roped, and it usually allows him to be in the zone with what he's swinging at. So, a nice evening, and look forward to watching him play tomorrow.
How big is it for you guys to get him back to truly being the guy that you're
I don't want to put too much on his shoulders, but he knows that. Listen, I mean, all your better players need, when it's important they play well, and so it's clearly important, but it's really a more just do what you're capable of. Don't try to carry more, which I do think has been a part of some of the last little bit is he cares. His care factor is really high, and just trying to do more to carry this club. And ultimately, all I want him and the rest of the group to do is just go out and be themselves.
What do you think of that umpire's interference situation?
I mean, it's technically he called the letter of the law. It's again about the offense. Different game potentially. Jensen. I mean, it's no fault of his. I mean, I don't think unless he just threw his head out there. I don't bet he watched the play, but it's he impeded Mariano's ability to make a throw, and we had a little play on that ended up working and scored a run, but as we say some days, that's baseball.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt after this 5-1 defeat at the hands of the Arizona Diamondbacks on this Friday. Diamondbacks win the series opener against the Padres. We'll step aside when we come back. A couple of thoughts on what Mike Shildt had to say. If you want to get a phone call in, phone number is always 833-288-0973. We'll also revisit what Mike had to say earlier today, give you the latest on Yu Darvish and Michael King, and take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. More to come as the Diamondbacks win it here tonight 5-1. Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres postgame show continues after these words. Welcome back to the Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show, brought to you by the all-new Jamul Casino Resort. Players, kickstart your summer of fun with Jamul Casino Resort's Players Party Saturday, June 14th. That is tomorrow, so make sure you go out to the all-new Jamul Casino Resort for the Players Party tomorrow. Should be a lot of fun. Hopefully good weather for the Players Party. I said this a couple of weeks ago. Got a very nice tour of the all-new Jamul Casino Resort. Resort is opening soon. The casino looking great as always. Going to be a lot of fun when the resort portion opens up. Had a great lunch in the Tony Gwynn Sports Pub. So, hey, go out there tomorrow. Jamul Casino Resort, the Players Party. Let me know how it is. Send me a message. Take some photos, whatever it might be. Enjoy the Players Party tomorrow. Again, the final score here tonight, Diamondbacks 5 and the Padres 1 as the Diamondbacks win this series opener against San Diego. Full look at the out-of-town scoreboard and more coming up. I did want to just chew on a couple of things that Mike Shildt alluded to there. And it really is about the offense because, look, we know with Mike, he's going to keep things positive, and that's totally fine. You know, there are really two ways to look at it. Number one, look, he has a point, and I think it's a fair point, actually, when he talks about what happened in the second and the third, because the Padres had a 1-0 lead in the top of the second inning. Elias Diaz strikes out, but on the play, Jake Cronenworth, with runners on first and third, takes off for second base. The throw gets by the middle infield and gets away, allowing Sheets, the runner on third, to score. But then moments later, the home plate umpire decides that he actually called interference on himself, Jansen Visconti. Interference on himself. And if you looked at the replay, certainly Gabriel Moreno's arm hit Visconti on his way up. And I thought it was the right call. It was an unfortunate call for the Padres, but I did think it was the right call. Like Mike Shildt said, I mean, letter of the law, it was the right call. It was unfortunate for the Padres because A, it took a run off the board, and B, Tyler Wade flies out to end the inning and they come up with nothing. So, if Visconti doesn't call it on himself or just doesn't get in the way, and let's say Moreno still makes a bad throw, or at least Cronenworth steals second base, maybe ends up being a different inning. The third, look, it's a fair point. Toddy walks, Arise hits one hard that turns into a double play, 2 singles, Sheets misses a home run by a few feet. Yeah, I mean, it was close, but, close is not going to score your runs. Look, obviously, the other way to look at the offensive night, you can look at that and say they were closer than what the box score would appear. At the same time, you look at what happened after the third, and there just wasn't much positive to take away. A single and a walk, and that was it as far as base runners after the third inning. So, again, fair assessment by Mike. Thought it was an interesting point, and a fair point about the second and the third. I do. But obviously, when you look at everything after the third, there just was nothing going in what was, a game that was within reach, and against the pitching staff that has not been particularly good for the Diamondbacks in the first half of this season. All right, we'll also play what Mike had to say about Yu Darvish and Michael King in just a moment, so stay tuned for that. But first, let's tell you about today's relief pitcher of the game.
Which pitcher entered the game and slammed the door shut? This is today's relief pitcher of the game, presented by David P. Shapiro Criminal Defense Attorneys. When your freedom and future are on the line, you need the best arm in the pen. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com.
Well, we'll keep it on the Padres side of things here tonight because we can. Really, again, bright spot tonight was Fernando Tatis Jr., and a bright spot was the bullpen, which is a positive to take away from this one. Sean Reynolds was good, inning and 2/3 scoreless. Wandy Peralta scoreless inning. David Morgan a scoreless inning. So I think it's obvious tonight. Let's give it to Sean Reynolds. Really nice job. 5 outs. Kept it a relatively close game in reach. I mean, look, a 4-run deficit shouldn't be insurmountable with the names in this lineup, and Reynolds kept it within reach. So 21 pitches, got 5 outs, didn't allow a hit, didn't walk anybody, struck out 1. Sean Reynolds, our relief pitcher of the game. Nice job by Sean. Let's tell you about today's catch of the game.
Which defensive play had the biggest impact on today's game?
He is at the wall, leaps up, and he makes the catch.
This is the catch of the game.
Gonna hang a star for Jackson Merrill.
Reeled in by Anthony's Fish Grotto La Mesa, celebrating 80 years of seafood excellence.
Our catch of the game, will tell you about it. It was the Yuli Gurriel play. Not Yuli Gurriel. Lourdes Gurriel's brother, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., his play down the left field line to make a nice play. I think it would have been a foul ball off the bat of Luis Arise in the 8th inning, but really nice running catch down the line. I thought probably the finest defensive play of this game. So nice play by Gurriel down the line, and that was today's play of the game. I don't know that would have fallen in for a hit for Arise, but certainly if Gurriel doesn't get there, the at-bat would have continued and made a really nice play down the line. All right, let's kind of refocus here because I do think it's worth hearing again what Mike Shildt had to say about Yu Darvish and Michael King earlier today, the updates on those 2 pitchers on the IL right now. Here was Mike earlier today.
You're just going to get a bullpen with some ups and downs. So run 15 pitches up and then take a little break and then another 15 or so back up again and see where it goes. That's a good sign, right?
How about Michael? What has he been doing?
All right, back to me. That's my fault. I gave Nick the wrong audio there. All right, I got to, I'm going to reorganize my efforts. We're going to do it after the break. It's my fault. I gave Nick the wrong audio. All right. Hey, it is 10 p.m., right? I'm not perfect. 10 p.m. Friday night. Can make a mistake every now and then. We'll step aside. We'll get the right audio. We'll do it when we come back. Full out of town scoreboard. Wrap things up. Get you ready for tomorrow's game. Hey, we're not perfect. No, we're not perfect here in the studio at 10 p.m. on a Friday night. Is what it is. Final score: Diamondbacks 5, Padres 1. We'll get to that Mike Shildt audio and wrap things up when we return. Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Final score: Arizona 5 and San Diego 1. If you want to squeeze a phone call in on this Friday night to react to tonight's series opener, phone number is always 833-288-0973. Full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, our play of the game, and we'll preview tomorrow's game that is coming up before we leave the studio here tonight. All right, we tried it once. How about the second time? Hopefully second time is the charm. I got the right audio for Nick now to play out of his fancy computer audio board there. Here was the update from Padres manager Mike Shildt earlier today, the latest on Yu Darvish and Michael King.
What is the plan with you while he is here, Yu Darvish?
He's going to throw in simulated game tomorrow, more likely at the complex.
What do you think that? I mean, since he's done the sort of up and downs in the bullpen, what is that going to involve? How many pitches, that kind of thing?
We're not sure. I mean, it'll be with hitters clearly, so that's the next step. I mean, it'll probably be in the 40-ish pitch range, is my guess.
It reached the point where he did a rehab start last time, so it might be hard to kind of gauge where it. But this seems like a pretty big step.
It is a big step. You know, it's a big step, and then the next step's the next big step about the recovery.
I assume no way to really know what to do after this.
It'll only be based on how he comes out of it.
Have you guys decided on any next steps for Michael King at this point?
I wish we could. I mean, it's just a rest. I mean, it's just a matter of how he heals and how this thing comes up. But until he can pick up a baseball and throw it consistently, there's really no planning.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt earlier today. So good news there on Yu Darvish, which is that he will throw to hitters. He will throw a simulated game tomorrow, likely at the complex in Peoria. Unclear on exactly how many pitches and what the next steps would be after that. But hey, that's good news. Another step in the right direction for Yu Darvish. So that is good news. As far as Michael King, again, I said a little bit earlier on the pregame, it's hard to know right now. I mean, the last line there for Mike, did it make me feel great? The fact that, basically he's got to be able to pick up a ball and throw it consistently to basically have a plan. Again, it just doesn't sound like there's any type of timeline yet for Michael King on what this is going to look like and what a return to play would look like as far as the steps he needs to take or what the timeline is. So, with the Michael King part of it, look, I don't want to get over the top concerned, but this is going to be a lengthy absence, it feels like, because, again, right now, I'd have to go and look exactly what day he missed that start, with the shoulder stiffness. And then we found out it was diagnosed as a pinched nerve. But, again, just doesn't seem like there's still any timeline on what the return for Michael King's going to look like. So I would say mildly concerning, right? That we don't have information on that yet, and they're still kind of figuring that out. So it does appear like it's going to be at the very least a fairly lengthy absence for Michael King. So hopefully we get some good news on the Michael King front at some point soon here, hopefully in the next week or so, at least some information that he's moving forward, progressing. We have some sort of timetable. So we'll see what the deal is with Michael King. Not the best update. I would say this about Michael King. There has been no update over the course of the last, couple of weeks. And no update, I don't want to say is a bad update, but it's also not like positive news, because you kind of want to hear what the progression is going to be and what the timetable is. So we'll see. Hopefully we can get some good news on Michael King moving forward here. He is so very important to this Padres rotation and the big picture of this season. All right, so when we get more news on that, we will be sure to let you know. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
Let's begin in LA, where the Giants beat the Dodgers 6-2. Yoshinobu Yamamoto gave up 5 earned runs, 4 2/3 innings tonight. Home runs in that game for Willie Adames, who all of a sudden is swinging the bat better. Andrew Kisner and Casey Schmidt had home runs in that game for San Francisco, so a big win for the Giants. Red Sox beat the Yankees 2-1. Aaron Judge actually broke up a shutout bid for Garrett Crochet in the 9th inning, hit a home run against him over the Green Monster to tie the game at 1, but then the Red Sox went on to win it, and Omar Narvaez RBI single in the bottom half of the 10th inning won it for the Sox 2-1. Pirates beat the Cubs at Wrigley 2-1 in Sen. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa sac fly to give Pittsburgh a lead, and they hung on to a 2-1 final score. Other scores tonight: Mariners beat the Guardians 7-2 in Seattle. Brewers beat the Cardinals 3-2 in Milwaukee. A's beat the Royals 6-4 in Kansas City. Astros beat the Twins 10-3 in Houston. Rangers beat the White Sox 3-1 in Arlington. Braves beat the Rockies 12-4 in Atlanta. Mets had a 5-1 lead against the Rays, but they came back to win it 7-5 in New York. The Tigers beat the Reds 11-5. Orioles beat the Angels 2-0. Phillies beat the Blue Jays 8-0 in Philadelphia. Marlins beat the Nats 11-9 in D.C. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Friday. Final score in Arizona: Diamondbacks 5, Padres 1. Let's hear tonight's play of the game.
The line between winning and losing can be razor thin. Which play was the difference between victory and defeat? This is today's play of the game. Presented by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
1-0. And Carroll hits it in the air the other way, deep to left field. Wade is back. He is on the warning track. He is at the wall. He jumps, and it's going to go. Home run, Corbin Carroll. Just over the fence into the first row. Tyler Wade went back, made a great effort, couldn't make the catch. 20th of the season for Corbin Carroll. And the Arizona lead is now 3-1.
Corbin Carroll having a really nice year. 20 home runs. That home run made it 3-1. Diamondbacks would go on to score 2 more runs in that 5th inning to make it 5-1. They go on to win by that final score. As always, doesn't give me any great pleasure for that to be our play of the game, but kind of how it had to be tonight. Something Diamondbacks related, and we give it to Corbin Carroll. That home run made it 3-1. As always, if you missed any portion of our post-game coverage, you can go back and listen to all of it on the Inside San Diego Baseball podcast with Sam Levitt, available on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your podcast. You can also go back on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube channel and catch any portion of our post-game show in video version there as well. All right, taking a look ahead to tomorrow. First pitch tomorrow, little bit earlier, 4:15 p.m. Pre-game coverage begins at 3:15 here on the Padres Radio Network. Pitching matchup tomorrow, right-hander Zach Gallen on the mound for Arizona, and rookie right-hander Ryan Bergert on the mound for the Padres. And I will go one-on-one with Ryan Bergert on our pre-game coverage tomorrow, again beginning at 3:15 p.m. And I do want to remind you, tomorrow is a nationally televised game as well. So I encourage you, if you want your local broadcast, to tune in with us on 97.3 The Fan, including the only place you'll hear from Mike Shildt and others pre-game and post-game on our pre- and post-game coverage here on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Taking a look at the final totals here tonight for the Diamondbacks. 5 runs, 7 hits, 1 error. They left on 7. For the Padres, 1 run, 6 hits, no errors. They left on 5. Winning pitcher, Ryan Nelson, who improves to 3-2. Losing pitcher was Stephen Kolek, who drops to 3-2. Time of game, 2 hours and 34 minutes. And the crowd at Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona, 33,052. Once again, first pitch tomorrow, 4:15 p.m. Our pregame coverage begins at 3:15. Until then, for our great studio coordinator, Nick Danucci, I'm Sam Levitt saying so long and good night from inside our San Diego studios. Again, the final score here tonight, the Arizona Diamondbacks 5 and the San Diego Padres 1. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Padres Radio Network. Have a great night, everybody.